Wheel of Genre, the show for readers who are a freak in the sheets. Right now we are reading every short story in Jeff and Ann VanderMeer's The Weird Anthology, including this one, William Sansom's A Woman Seldom Found. I'm Zach, and this week I am really interested in spinning the travel narrative. This is a Londoner writing about Europe, and I think that's an interesting little twist.
If only we're in Italy. I'm Bob. I'm interested. I don't know what I'm interested in. I was going to go in there and say something. I have no idea, Zach. This is such a weird story. I think I'm interested in like eternity. There is so much focus on eternity. Like, I wish this moment could last forever. It's a strange, just immediate love story. It happens in about one night. We have this man, as you said, he's a traveler. He meets someone on the street and they make eyes at each other and he says, oh, surely this could not be the love of my life. And then boom, it is, kind of. But as they go back to her place, I won't say strange things. I'll say a strange thing happens. And that is pretty much it. It is like, it's 4 pages. It's one of the shortest stories in the anthology.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, it's not the most interesting story in this anthology. It's probably not the best written story in this anthology, but it might be the story that I think about the most that will have the greatest impact in my life.
Wow.
Well, okay. So what do we know about Sansom? Because we previously read his story, The Sheet, which was another weird one. I would say a significantly weirder one. It was a kind of allegorical tale about a prison where they basically tell the prisoners, you can get out of jail as soon as you take this damp towel, this damp sheet, and wring it completely dry. But the problem is they keep moistening it with mist. So you have like a cell by cell examination of the prisoner's psychology, culminating in a dramatic reveal about the futility of effort. So he's a guy who writes in a very certain way. Unfortunately, I forgot that this was him. I just knew that I had seen his name before, but I couldn't remember which story. So while reading this one, I was like, I know, I'm going to be a really good reader, and I'm going to use context clues and try to guess which of our previous writers this was.
Oh.
Couldn't do it.
Could not guess. Yeah.
Not even close. Yeah. And I just got one more thing to say, which is he's not only a weird fiction writer, quite relevant to this story. He also wrote travel books about his European trips and also a biography of Marcel Proust called Proust and His World. So this is a dreamer, Bob. This man is a dreamer.
He's a dreamer. He was a firefighter. He illustrated a few children's books, maybe just one. And he was also loved by Anthony Burgess. I thought that was very interesting. He ended up writing some of his introductions. And this, I just was surprised because The Long Sheet is so weird. I think it's one of the weirdest stories in the entire anthology. And I thought this was, I think this felt like weird for weird's sake. You know, it's just a regular story, and then boom, there's a weird thing. As they go through this romantic evening, he gets to her house. It's a mansion right there. You should probably realize, well, this seems a little too good. They get served by all these butlers. They have a wonderful meal. They're drinking frothy wine, as it says, and everything is great. And then he realizes, the whole night he's like, something is strange. Then he turns on the chandelier. And he's like, well, maybe I should turn it off. And she says, no, don't worry about it. And then it says, and she reached out her hand. Her hand grew larger. Her arm grew longer and longer. It stretched out through the bed curtains across the long carpet, huge and overshadowing the whole of the long room, until at last its giant fingers were at the door. And then she clicks out the light. And that is the only weird.
Yeah. And it uses a fun word there. It says the light went terminally out, which I thought was a really great double entendre right there. Yeah. It's all a little too good. And I feel like what we've done here is we've taken the kind of perfect encounter trope. and we spin it. And so like, positive examples of this would probably be like Richard Linklater's Before Sunrise. They meet on a train and they spend all night walking together, deep in conversation, and then across 2 other sequels, they get married and have children. Beautiful. Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris might be another one. The American goes to Europe and kind of steps into a fantasy world where he can hang out with the expats of World War II, the Hemingways and the all those other people who were in Paris at that time.
Fitzgerald,
yeah. But I think that this has a little bit more in common with some of the more negative examples of these kinds of things. Polidori's The Vampire.
I was thinking vampires too.
Yeah. The travel log, it's also a travel log with an aristocrat, but the aristocrat is there to drink his blood. And then modern movies, I would point to Hostel, Infinity Pool, shout out Mia Goth, and Midsommar.
I was wondering too about vampires and the idea of the perfect moment. It reminded me a lot of Faust, where there's this the deal is made with Mephistopheles. Like, okay, if I find the perfect moment, I'll agree to stick there. And it feels like they've found the perfect moment, and it is too good. You go into the mansion, there's chandeliers everywhere, but they talk about eternity a lot. He says the possibility of a perfect encounter, a dream that years of disillusion will never quite kill. So even if it doesn't last forever, it's the dream that will kind of overshadow the rest of life. And he says, his elation rose beyond control, and thereafter the perfections compounded. Later, in her bedroom, to the picture, where she's framed in her bedroom, it's a good picture of her. And then he says, he poured out his love, a love that was to be eternal, to be always perfect, as fabulous as their exquisite meeting. So it is this perfect moment that puts you in a bubble that seems like it's like this golden bubble that will protect you from anything, but yet the golden bubble starts to crush you in.
I do like this idea of like the perfect moment. But I like situating the perfectness of this moment within the frame of travel, because when we're traveling, we tend to do things that we would probably never ever do in everyday life. You know what I mean? We try new things. That's kind of the point of traveling, some might say. But we do things that are completely out of line with our everyday normal selves. And I think that for a lot of people, when they travel, they're looking not for these grand monumental moments. It's not seeing the Eiffel Tower for the first time that you remember. It's the croissant that you ate that was the best croissant you've ever had. It's the idiosyncratic moments. And I think that as someone who is traveling, who is in Rome, possibly for the first time, exploring the city, it's a perfect moment in the sense that it is so idiosyncratic. It is a traveler's souvenir. It's a memorial. It's a moment. It's a memory that only he has. And in that sense, it's perfect.
Zach, I know this idiosyncratic moment of that you never forget, because it seems to take you over in a way, I guess, at the moment, and then you never forget it. It seems to be a dream. It still affects you, like, wow, that dream that I had that really, such an intense nightmare, such an intense dream, I'll never forget it. And it doesn't really feel real. Because I was in Prague, of course, the place for this kind of thing happened. Almost the exact same thing happened to me. But I can remember being out, there's an old bar in the park where there's this water wheel, and it's very dark, very dusty. You have to go across a bridge, and there's this water wheel that's always churning the water. And there are these huge evergreens. And I can just remember the moment, before everything. But I can remember the moment of just the intense, deep, dark blue of the sky. I could see the whole thing. And then all of these, like the evergreens were so tall, they were like giants, and they were just swaying, bending down, with the wind. It was like the whole park was kind of alive with this dream-like moment, because you were no longer making rational decisions, I guess. You are taken in by the weirdness of the moment, and then you just go into the dark of the weirdness of the moment.
I thought that was going to end with a kiss or something. I was like,
well, I could, and then I went home with, yeah. We'll cut it.
And then I took that tree home, and that's how I wound up in the hospital. The splinters were unbelievable.
Yes, whoa, Prague. But the question, what is exactly happening? We were both thinking that it sounds like a vampire. It feels like a vampire. There's all of this obsession with eternity, and there is the kind of the beauty that she's even described as like kind of being sparkly, almost like an Edward Cullen vampire. But what is really happening in this little glimpse of a horror scene?
Yeah, it's a really good question. My first thought was succubus. I don't know what a succubus looks like. I don't know what a succubus does. Well, I know what a succubus does, but I don't know if this is the perfect fit for that. Matthew Rattino, who has been writing blog posts on each one of these stories, suggests that it could be a genius loci of Rome itself, which I thought was pretty cool. For anyone watching who did not watch our episode on the genius loci, it is, or loci as we said in that episode, it's basically like the ghost or spirit of a place itself. So it's one option. In the story we read, it was a quite evil ghost, a quite spooky ghost.
I feel like it is maybe not, it could be a genius loci because there is an emphasis on, hey, you just walked by this place. The guy who's traveling has been wandering around. Also a thing I love to do in traveling, walking so long you have to buy a second pair of shoes because your shoes fall apart and you have no friends and you just walk around for miles in different cities. Anyway, he walks by her apartment to begin with, and then when she brings him back, it's like, oh, I've been here before. It's like he missed the chance to meet the genius loci once, and the genius loci reaches out, to grab him and bring him to the spirit of the place, really.
Okay, Bob, one last question for you, because I read something that I thought was really, really interesting, and I want your gut reaction. Honest reaction. I saw a Reddit post of someone writing 1-sentence reviews for each one of the stories in here. And they said that it felt like this author had stumbled upon an interesting image and then bent over backwards to try to justify it. So they wrote this story. How do you feel about that?
It does. Well, I don't think they really necessarily bent over backwards, but it does kind of feel like that. But how do you even get to this idea? I guess, is he writing the trope of this moment is too perfect and going towards it and saying, no, I want to make it weird, giant arm? Or is it the image first and then had to write towards that image? I can't tell at all. But I think it does feel like something about this moment is bending over backwards to make it feel weird. Not necessarily what Sansom is doing, but something about chasing the idea of this story. It has to turn out weird. There has to be a finger longer, a giant arm that stretches out.
Yeah. Well, I for one was tickled by it, and I love the wrapper that this candy came in. So we'll see if this is indicative of where weird fiction goes as we move closer and closer to the present day, or if this was a kind of one-off fun thing. I'll talk to you later, Bob.
Talk to you later, Zach.